Jabberwock, my son. The jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jub-Jub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Wonderland Wednesday. Today we are talking about Through the Looking Glass, another BBC adaptation. This one is from 1973, and I don't think we liked it nearly as much as we liked the 1986 Alice in Wonderland adaptation. This one was very strange.
It was strange for Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, and I haven't read the book in years, Through the Looking Glass, probably even longer than it's been since I've read Alice in Wonderland. So I don't know if the strangeness was supposed to be like this, or if...
I recognized a fair amount of stuff, but there were different things that made it kind of weird or tacky.
Yeah, the special effects ranged from barely passable to downright awful, and at times laugh out loud horrible.
Well, he felt that way about the Jabberwocky.
Oh,
We'll get there.
Yeah.
They had a cute kitten for Dinah.
That is true. And I will say that as bad as the special effects and things were, the acting was almost all top-notch. Like, Alice was great. We really liked the queens. The Red Queen in particular was one of the best parts of the movie. So the acting really helped elevate this, because without the acting, this would have been a downright awful adaptation.
One of the big things that made me want to watch this one is that they actually had a little girl playing Alice. So the lines she delivered were more fitting.
And she was a really good actress. Other than the Red Queen, she was probably the best actress in this.
They actually had the flower people this time, and he was rather impressed because they seemed to have a green screen effect where you had the human heads with the flower around, but it just looks like stems, and they seemed to use a lot of green screen, and I don't think it wasn't flawless.
No, the flowers were probably the best use of the effect. A lot of times in the backgrounds, you could see different things like wrinkled material that wasn't quite getting keyed out of the picture. The backgrounds were fine. They were all like hand drawn, but they were not superimposing the characters onto them correctly, because the characters would like move around while the backgrounds were still.
It created an odd visual effect.
Yeah, and I don't think it was purposeful. I think it was just they weren't entirely sure what they were doing, and that's just how it ended up turning out.
I feel like this might be a good version for kids because of all of the illustration in it, but that was a little bit of a letdown for me. I mean, you're in England. You can totally incorporate real forests and gardens and whatever, and they didn't.
No, you could clearly tell that this was all filmed on a sound stage.
And maybe they did that because of some of the effects that they wanted, but I would have loved to see more of the British landscape. One of the good things about this version is that they do include a lot of dialogue from the book. The scene with the White Knight took too long. We were both tired of it before it was over. But when you get, say, the Queens, some of the clever, funny dialogue is great in there, even if the special effects weren't that great. And the Red Queen did an awesome job portraying her character. And I really liked the White Queen too. They're two very different personalities, and I can see in this one scene Alice is sitting in between the two of them how they really mimicked the style of the original illustration and the way that they portrayed them. I really liked that.
Every scene with the queens was probably the best scenes of the movie, I would say.
Probably, yeah.
Because the actresses were all great. The costumes were all really good for them. Some of the costumes were not the greatest, but the queens were probably some of the best costumes in the film, I would say.
And I rather liked the White King's character too. His messengers needed some pants. I don't know, they had them in sort of this medieval garb, but it was kind of like 70s shorts length.
It was very strange. The Mad Hatter and the March Hare looked like they were wearing weird little dresses, and they weren't wearing anything underneath them.
They
at
were
least that we could
well,
tell.
maybe they had some little shorts on or something, but it was just kind of like, okay.
You were seeing a fair bit too much leg than I would have preferred.
A 1970s amount of man leg.
It was just kind of
awkward. I appreciated the train scene, how they had the guy with the sort of newspaper-looking outfit.
The train scene I didn't know what to make of because, like I said, I haven't read the book in so long, so it seemed to come out of nowhere and then end just as abruptly.
But I remember this strange train scene from the book. Also, the strange shop scene, which I would have liked to see them do a better job with. It would have really benefited from a real shop setting.
Oh,
but
yes.
they just did illustrations, and it could have been really strange. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be really strange, but it could have been strange in a much better way with the White Queen when she turned into a sheep and they were doing things together. It's not going to make that much sense in the book, but it really didn't make sense the way they did it in this movie.
One of the worst special effects. As everything was a painted background, they had to interact with some of the stuff they were touching, but at one point the sheep put something on the counter. The characters and the thing she's put on the counter are all moving, and the background is still, was just a terrible special effect.
He was really hoping that the Jabberwocky would not be a puppet or something,
Yes.
and it was, and
I was hoping that the Jabberwocky would just be an illustration, because with the level of special effects that I had seen before that point in the film, I knew it wasn't going to turn out very well, so I was hoping they would stick with an illustration, and they did not. It looked like a really bad Muppet, and when it screamed, it sounded like Miss Piggy being tortured.
little boy wandering off with a head. It was
really strange.
I really didn't care for the end scene. The party was just kind of
random and
creepy,
raucous and strange.
Creepy and icky looking. It's not, you look at it, it's like, that's not a party that I want to be at.
No.
And I felt like the ending of it was kind of awkward. Yes, it seemed true to the book. And then she, the end of the party, and then she's back in the room, like, waking up and shaking the kitten, because in the dream, she's shaking the Red Queen, and then she's shaking the kitten. No kittens were harmed in the shaking of the kitten.
It was a very gentle
yes
jostle.
Little jiggle. Yes. Kitten jiggle. So my initial reaction when finishing this would be to say, no, don't bother. But now that we've talked about it, there really were positives.
It had some positives mixed in with the negatives.
Yeah.
It was not a horrible version, but it wasn't the greatest version.
If you want to feel for the dialogue without reading the book, it's fairly reliable, I think.
But if you're looking for a really fun, entertaining version with top-notch special effects, this is not it.
If you want it to be very visually pleasing, then no.
Look elsewhere. If you're the kind of person who watches old movies because they're bad, like bad special effects.
People do that?
Oh yes. It's very popular just to riff on them.
Watch this one!
Yes, if you like to watch old movies that have bad special effects just because of how bad they are, we recommend this one. But if you're actually looking for a really good version, there's probably going to be something better out there.
And we already stated positives, not just like if you like bad special effects.
Mm-hmm. The acting was good, and there was some good dialogue.
Yes, definitely.
Well, I think that's all for today's Wonderland Wednesday. We're not sure what we're going to watch next time yet. We have a few that we've been looking at, but we haven't made a decision yet. So I guess you'll be as surprised as we are when we figure it out. So we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.